I don't really know what to not like about this. So does anything jump out to you?
I guess there's one thing. If you're saying, okay, we got a really young defense, it might take a little time for the defense to come together. We got putting a lot of rookies in, having 3 division games in the first 5 weeks. Maybe it's not ideal. Where you could fall a little behind the 8 ball in the division. If you lose 2 of those 3 or all 3, like if you lose a couple of those division games early, you'll be chasing things. That's probably like one of the few things where you probably would have rather had some of
Yeah.
those. A few more of those South games. You have the Saints and Jaguars, but even the Jaguars are probably one of the out of those 8 games are probably one of the I don't know, probably like the third. Not probably not as tough as Houston or Tampa, but probably right there with
Yeah.
Atlanta as like one of the tougher games you have out of those 8 against the South. So I would say 3 division games early. It's pretty rare for them to do that, and that's probably not ideal. Like, so if you're looking at things and say, okay, what wouldn't I like about the schedule? I would say that would probably be the first thing.
Yeah, you would. I guess if you were gonna, what you said about the back end of the schedule means that you don't play Cam Ward in the first month. Maybe you'd like to play a rookie
Right.
quarterback right away, or play the Bears with the new offense right away. You do get the Saints, right? That's the one they get Tyler Shuck or Jake Hayner or
Yeah.
um, or Spencer Rattler. Would you want to play Penix early before he's had 6 weeks to settle back into being a starter? I was asking, who do you think the Giants quarterback is week 9?
Ooh, I gotta look at the Giants. The Giants schedule is so brutal that I think there's a spot. Let me see. I think there was a spot for the
Here, I'll
Giants to
pull it up.
have. They have like a early season game against a weak opponent, but then it like gets so tough after that. What they are? What is it? It's the Saints. They have the Saints in week 5. But then right after that, it's Philly, Denver, Philly, San Francisco, Chicago. So it's like there's no easy spot to put the rookie in that spot. So
No, you're right. But also, like, Russ got hurt last. Justin Fields started some games because Russ got hurt last
right,
year. This is Brian Daboll's fighting for his life, potentially. The GM. This is the ownership group that once broke Eli Manning's consecutive starts streak so they could play Geno Smith, only to go back to Eli the next week.
yeah, like the owners didn't want to bench Eli. I think it was.
Well, you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
This is the team that did.
right.
So,
Yeah,
like, yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, that's a separate thing. But the
It,
point is, like, who knows what's going on with them by
right.
week
Yeah, you
9?
don't know who's playing quarterback that game at all. You don't. Could be Jameis, I guess too.
Could be Jameis.
Yeah.
Josh Dubow is a scheduling guru. He's going into his 10th year covering the 49ers for the Associated Press. We got to do this. You've been on the show a few times. We got to do this last year with our buddy John Dickinson, who, like you, knows the schedule as well as anybody. But JD's traveling back covering the Warriors, so he's not here for this. You just got done talking to Mike North, the NFL scheduler. And I know you've dived into the great thing about Josh is when I inevitably screw up some math on a schedule, Josh texts is like, I think you got the rest days wrong with blah, 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 blah. But anyway, so what do you think? What do you think of the Niners schedule?
The end of it's great for them. If they can get through that closing stretch is about as easy as you can get between. They leave what? They leave home once in the final 5 weeks. From the Carolina game on, it's you finish the season Carolina at home, at Cleveland, bye, home Tennessee, at Indy, home Chicago, home Seattle. Like, if you can be in position to make the playoffs going into that, like that's at worst that should, if you go 4-2, you're probably not happy with that 6-game stretch to end the season.
Yeah. Yep.
So basically it's like if you get through 6-5 in the first 11, you should be in good shape to be 10 11 win team at that point. So I think it's the beginning of the beginning of the schedule is definitely a little more a little tougher. The schedule in general is pretty easy, but the beginning of the season definitely more challenging than the end. The end is about as favorable as you can get. No, outside of Cleveland, you don't have a bad weather game at home. Most, at the end, I think the late bye. If you're going to the playoffs, that late bye is nice because it's
right
more in the middle seat. Obviously, if you're not a playoff team, then that 13 games in a row to start is a little is a lot. But if you're not getting a bye and playing 3 playoff games, having you have a week 8 or 9 bye, you have your 13 or 14 games in a row after the bye, at the most important time. So, I think the late bye, if if you're not a good team, who cares really? If you're going 8-9, not making the playoffs, does it really matter when your bye is? And if you are thinking of making a playoff run like that, I think that week 14 bye is fine.
Yeah, yeah.
If it's a hot day in week 3 against Arizona, playing Kyler in the heat in Santa Clara hasn't always been good for them. Jason Kyler around.
What did Mike North? What came up with this Niners schedule? Did you get what questions did you have about it? And
Well, someone asked. He was asked about the rest disparity stuff. I think it was by Mike Garafolo from NFL Network. Asked him about it. How much of a fact does it ever kill a schedule for them if the rest disparity is so bad? It basically said never really kills a schedule, but it's something they're aware of. It's one of several factors. They look in. Obviously, the first thing they're doing is balancing the games out for the TV partners and making sure they're good games in every major TV window as much as possible. That's fairness is not the number one goal. The number one goal of the NFL is to make money, and to make money, you make your TV partners happy. As you TV people know, Mr. Fox over there. I know you guys, your Ohio State people all hate you now because you give them all those noon starts. But yes, it's all about that. So that's the number one priority. Then you have stadium availability. There are times the stadium's not available, so it's like, okay, like this team can't play week 8. This team can't play week 4. This team can't play at home week 6. Whatever it is. It could be teams share parking with the baseball team, or there's another event in town. Whatever. It could be concert. Like Billy Joel is coming to Santa Clara.
Right.
So the Niners are playing the Rams that week, and then they're gone the next week. So there are all sorts of those that happen. And then there's figuring out the international games. You got to put those in. I think the thing that helped the Niners this year in terms of the rest disparity probably is, last year their game against the Chiefs was one of the games the NFL said, okay, we're putting this game. What was it, week 7, week 8, whatever it was. Like early on, they locked in. Fox wants this game. October is a nice time for it. We're going to put this game. We're going to lock this game in, and if it means that the Chiefs have a bye the week before and the Cowboys have a bye that week before play, who cares? Like the Niners Chiefs game is this day. We've locked that in. Like Niners Cowboys, they locked in as a Sunday night game early. Like there's no game on this Niners schedule you say, okay, like a network's like screaming, oh, I need that. There's not a single game on the schedule where a network's saying, I need this game. Like there's not one.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, the only one that could, I guess, like maybe Seahawks Niners week 18.
well, number one, Fox is guaranteed one of those, one of all the division games. So that's a guarantee. Fox has to get one division game of each division meeting. So that's Fox gets those. But the Rams, they put one Rams game on a Thursday night. You figured one of the Rams games was going to get prime time. I thought one of the Seattle Arizona games could get prime time, but neither one of those did. So they got their prime time schedule is not so appetizing. So that sort of made their thing easier. But basically, he was like, he noted on another talk he was talking about bye weeks and late bye weeks, and I think the same with rest disparity is. If it happens 1 or 2 years in a row, a team has a really late bye, really early bye, bad rest disparity, whatever it is, they don't really care if it's 1 or 2 years, figuring it's going to even out. If it goes to 3, 4, 5 years in a row, now it's like, okay, maybe this is something we don't want to have happen. But 1 or 2 years, they don't really care. Like, as long as it falls in the parameters, it's not a big deal. Basically, the NFL's, I've seen different. ESPN has the bye week thing a little more of a penalty than the NFL. The NFL calls it about a third of a point. I think ESPN was like between half and a point. But basically, it's not a huge advantage one way or the other. So it's, we're talking less than, it's somewhere between a third of a point and 2/3 of a point probably is what it is, the advantage. So basically he said if the best schedule they got had the Niners with a negative 12 rest disparity, they would have been fine with it.
Got it.
Turned out this one, if they were happy, it was a fact, they were happy to have one where, okay, after having negative 20 plus the last couple of years, that this one was in their favor, it was probably nice for them because it's like, okay, now we're sort of back to square one. So now if something goes against them the next year, like It's not 4 years in a row. So now it's like,
Right.
it's like resetting the luxury tax in baseball. It's like, well, once you get out of it for 1 year, now you're not a repeater or whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like, okay, so now, we bought ourselves another year now where we can do various things, and now it's the Raiders. Your Raiders have the worst rest disparity in the NFL.
No. What is it?
It's like -17 or 19, something like that. Yeah.
I
Your
saw you had a great post. You said the rate for the 22nd year in a row, or whatever.
yeah,
The Raiders play the defending AFC West champion twice. They always
right.
get screwed.
Yeah, Browns fed it for longer, but yeah, the Raiders and Browns, like every year they got to play their division champ twice. No one else does that every year. Like, come on. Like how is
To
that
be
fair?
clear, the joke is that the Raiders haven't won the division.
No, how is this fair? So
Yeah.
you'd think with Tom Brady in charge that they'd give the Raiders, the benefit of the doubt, but no, still 2 games against the Chiefs, and they got to play the Eagles. My God, it's like never gets easy for your Raiders.
What do you think of the NFC West and the NFC in general? You and I were debating. Well, actually, before you answer that, we were talking about something just before we started, and I said, "Stop, let's talk about this." As Bill Walton would say, "Save it for the air." I think 10 wins against this schedule would feel underwhelming because 10 wins also means 7 losses. I made the point earlier, how coaches say like losses hurt more than wins feel good. Like this schedule is a schedule where the losses hurt more than the wins feel good. And I think 7 losses, once you start going through and going, okay, you lose one to the Rams, you lose one to Seattle. Even if you say you split every divisional game, find 4 more losses you're okay with. Okay, you lose to the Bucks on the road, fine. You lose to Houston on the road, fine. Well, that leaves you at least with 2 losses that would feel like total gut punches. So to me, 10 wins would feel like not taking full advantage of this schedule. But do you disagree with that?
No, I agree with that. I do think, I think, who knows with the Bears? We could be going into week 17 and the Ben Johnson is the Messiah and Caleb Williams is what we thought, and the Bears are a double-digit win team and losing to the Bears at home in week 17.
Commanders.
Right. Yeah, they're this year's commander. That's totally, I think, in play. So I think that one, I think Jacksonville's an intriguing team. Like, could they be better? Like, they shouldn't have been as bad as they were last year. Like, some of it seemed to be coached. Like, is that offense better with, Liam Cohen calling the plays, Trevor Lawrence with, Travis Hunter, a 2-way star, Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas. If they're both really good receivers, that 49er secondary is probably the weakness in their defense. Can they throw the ball around on them? That could be one. I think Atlanta, again, you look at the teams that could sort of challenge what the 49ers do. Like Atlanta, I think, again, they've got some receipt, I think Drake London's really good. Could they, that way. So I think there are a couple.
You're coming off a long trip, right? You're coming off.
Yeah, like so could you go 2-4? Do you get swept by the Rams and split with the Seahawks and Cardinals and go 2-4 in the division? It'd be just these are all in the realm. By last year's win percentage, it's the weakest schedule in 10 years in the NFL. I think by projected wins, it's one of the weakest in recent memory. Like by any objective measurement, it's one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. So they should be able to get some wins here and get back into the playoffs. If they can't, that's a major. If you can't get to the playoffs against this schedule, this team's got some major issues.
Well, to your point, right? You can win 10 games, and I could be sitting here going, "That's not good enough." And then you win a couple of playoff games, you go, "Oh, maybe that team was good."
Yeah, yeah, but that's it. Yeah, you go 10-7 and lose your wild card game. It's like, okay, like it's probably not a satisfying season for the Niners. You go 9-8 and win 2 playoff games and get to the conference title game again, and you're playing well at the end. It's like, oh,
yeah,
we're right back there. So.
Last thing before I let you go, since you really anything I should be adding to this schedule? I've got rest days, I've got the line openings, I've got opponent. I guess we got to find out exactly, is Chicago, Green Bay, week 16 a Saturday?
That is a Saturday.
It is. Okay. Yeah. Somebody put it somewhere. It was a Friday, but that's a Saturday.
I saw Florida had that they on the NFL website they had it wrong originally as a Friday, but right. It's a Saturday. It's going up against the college football playoff. That's the Fox doubleheader they had going up. That's the the 3 quarterfinal games in the college football playoff, and it's Washington, Philly, Chicago, Green Bay on Fox. That's
What a
Saturday.
day. What a day.
Yeah. I think last year that was the day you and I were in San Jose for that day watching. You called Stanford, Oregon, right? You were the Stanford, Oregon, not the Cal San Diego State game.
Correct. As he's
Yeah.
talking basketball. Yep. Good memory.
Yes. So following those games.
That's right. That's right. I was very happy that day that the game sucked because I didn't miss anything.
Yeah, they did. Yes, they did. So yes, I felt the same way. So yeah, I was watching from press row. So yeah, so that game's a Saturday, and I guess it doesn't matter. I didn't. Were the Seahawks? Are they in that Saturday pool for week 17?
You mean could Seattle be playing Carolina on Saturday?
Yes,
We're talking week 17, right?
Week 17.
Yeah. So the games are it must be Seattle, Carolina, Arizona, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Green Bay, Houston, Chargers, Giants, Raiders.
Yeah.
So if Seattle ends up on a Saturday against Carolina,
it's an extra day of rest.
That would help them. And does the Niners game end up on Saturday? Because at least then Seattle would be on regular rest and the Niners would be on short rest. Now, if the game does not, and then the week 18 game, like let's say Seattle, Carolina is Sunday, but then week 18 is Saturday. Now the Niners have a little bit of an advantage because Seattle's coming from across the country on a short week, and the Niners are at home for both games. Yeah,
Niners are home both, and Seattle's on the road for both. That was the other one late in the season. They have a lot of games where they're playing teams at home on the second game of a back-to-back road.
Yeah, how about that? It's what is that? 8 of their 10 opponents are coming off road games.
Yeah, but especially when they're at home, like it's a lot. Like, again, I don't know how big a deal the back-to-back, like the 3 road games in a row. And I don't think anyone got the 3 road games in a row this year.
Okay.
It's possible someone did with an international home one of their international games being at home over there. But in terms of actual road games, I don't think anyone did, which is pretty rare. Usually there's 1 or 2. They avoided that this year. From what I saw when I went through it last night. So I don't know how big a deal the back-to-back road games is, but one of them is an East Coast trip. It's definitely not.
Yeah.
It's not nothing, but it's again, it's.
How about Atlanta 5 primetime games plus a game in Berlin?
I was surprised Atlanta and Minnesota both getting the major treatment. Like in Minnesota, it's like 7 standalone games. They have the 2 international back-to-back. But I thought that was banking a lot on Penix and JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
Those 2 surprised me. How much? I wasn't surprised that Washington got a ton. Chicago always gets a couple, even when they're not interesting. I think they're definitely interesting this year. New England getting only 3. I thought maybe they'd get another one. I think they might be a little better. There were a couple games. I think the NFL talked about they considered doing New England, Tennessee in primetime. Vrabel against Tennessee and giving Cam Ward a primetime game, but didn't in the end. Like that was one of the ones. It was like, maybe that was like sort of in the mix. It's a primetime game. They ended up not. So that would have been a 4th from New England. Would have taken one. Added one for Tennessee. Maybe that would have been at the expense of one of the Atlanta or Minnesota ones. I don't know. But yeah, I was a little surprised how. I know Minnesota won a bunch of games last year, but you're changing quarterbacks. It's definitely. I'm Team JJ, but it's
Yeah, you're a Michigan guy for people. I didn't. Josh, a Michigan guy.
Yeah, but I thought that one was a little interesting. Like how the Atlanta Minnesota was a little surprising. Again, I thought the Niners might get the 6th primetime game. I thought they definitely would get one of their second division game primetime. Maybe instead of the Atlanta or instead of the Carolina. Oh my God, like Niners.
I know. On Monday night.
On Monday Night Football, Thanksgiving week, like that one's not. You're talking with things that aren't ideal. Monday night game, Thanksgiving week, with a trip to Cleveland. Is not like again you're playing Cleveland, so it should be fine. But it's like you don't really practice Wednesday. They try not to after a Monday night game. They try not to do much of a practice on Thursday when it's Thanksgiving, but they might have to. It's Friday. They don't do.
Here's the other thing. Like Jim Schwartz is still the defensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns. Right?
Yeah. Right. And like if whatever, for any reason Trent Williams is not healthy and you got like Myles Garrett going up against or Trent Williams just says, okay, Myles Garrett says I'm going to line up against Colt McKivitz all day. Like, hi Trent, I'll see you after the play. And if Mason Graham is, who knows how good Mason Graham's going to be as a rookie, but like if he's disruptive as a rookie, like, yeah, that could be, weather's bad, Jim Schwartz defense, but like that Carolina, like that's probably not ideal. A short week on a holiday week, having to travel to Cleveland, it could be bad weather.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, that'd be another one where it's like,
don't love.
Yeah, where it's like, again, if Cleveland's a 4-1 team, it shouldn't be an issue. But like, who knows? Like that one is like you'd rather have that game in September. I'm gonna say maybe October, maybe hoping that Flacco's been benched by then and they've gone to one of the Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur.
Yeah.
Though I guess I don't know. Can Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur throw the ball in bad weather?
It would be Shedeur. It'd be my guess.
Yeah. Is he gonna be able to throw the ball in bad weather? Is his arm strong enough if the wind's?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, so yeah, that would be another one. It's sort of just a little bit, because there's always a game. What, 2019, didn't they lose to Atlanta at home? When Atlanta wasn't any good?
Yep.
Right? Like, there's always a game. They lost to Atlanta, and they lost at Atlanta. They lost to Mariota. They got killed by Mariota in Atlanta in 22, right? Yeah.
How about you remember the Wentz game?
Yeah. Right. So there's always...
You're right. There always is.
There's always the one, and like, like that Cleveland could be, maybe that Cleveland's it, where it's like you have no business losing that game and you end up losing one. Like there's usually one of those on there.
Well, I think if we get to week 13 and the Niners look like a team that has no business losing that game, then it's probably been pretty good.
Again, actually, that's the tricky one. And then the bye coming up next, guys start looking ahead to the bye. It's like Thanksgiving week. We got the bye coming up. So,
all right, Josh Dubow. Thanks, man. Good to see you.
Good seeing you. I'll see you in OTA in a couple weeks, probably, right? You'll be down there.
Right. Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah.